Hi, welcome. Thank you for coming to listen to my presentation this evening. So imagine living next to 47 cats in one apartment. The smell, the noise, the waste. Now imagine what that does not just to the people living there, but to the environment and the health of the whole community. Here in Martinsburg, West Virginia, we don't have any ordinances limiting cat ownership. We do for dogs, not for cats. That means situations like this, urban cat hoarding, can spiral out of control. Cat hoarding isn't just a nuisance, it's an ecological and public health issue. This evening I would like to show you the science behind this information and how it tells us that we need a city ordinance limiting the number of cats a person can own. I'll walk through the biology behind it, the ecological impacts, and the human health risks, as well as the solutions that we can take. Now, I've personally contacted the landlord of the building and animal control about this specific case, but no action has been taken. This shows huge gaps in our policy. Again, no ordinance for cats, how their waste is disposed of, only dogs. So I'm a college student. I attend Blue Ridge. And this semester in biology has really opened my eyes to the impacts that certain environmental issues can have. This semester we've studied many things. A few of those being chapter 11 this semester was on evolution. And that was a stark reminder that inbreeding among hoarded cats reduces genetic diversity, making them more vulnerable to diseases. Chapter 12, we learned about the diversity of life, and that shows that cats are part of biodiversity, but so are the microbes and fungi that thrive in waste-filled apartments. Chapter 13 on microbes explains how cat waste fosters dangerous microbial growth, which then can spread into soil and water. And the research backs this up. In a 2025 study from Ohio State University, it was said that animal hoarding creates unsafe living conditions, contamination risk, and requires multi-agency responses. Another study from the Cornell University's Feline Health Center explains that cats can spread diseases like toxoplasmosis, ringworm, and rabies, which can be a real risk to neighbors. The ecological impacts is, again, something that we cannot ignore. So let's take a look at the ecological side. Chapter 14 this semester was on plants, and it shows how soil contamination from cat waste harms vegetation. Chapter 20 on the ecosystems explains how waste runoff alters nutrient recycling and water quality. Cats also affect wildlife directly. Chapter 15 on animals highlights how feral cats prey on birds and mammals. And you can see the chart that I've included, the number of mammals and birds and reptiles are in the millions that they kill. According to Nature Communications study, cats kill between 1.3 and 4 billion birds every year in the US. And that's not just numbers, that's biodiversity disappearing. The bigger picture is clear. Chapter 19 on population and community ecology shows how overpopulation of cats disrupts community balance. Chapter 21 on conservation and biodiversity reminds us that cat predation reduces biodiversity and threatens conservation efforts. So unmanaged cat populations aren't just a neighborhood problem or a nuisance among the other residents of an apartment building. It's an ecological crisis. There's also a human dimension to this. of course, it's not just about the ecosystems, it's about people too. Chapter 16 this semester, we covered body systems, and it explains how neighbors can be exposed to odors and pathogens that affect respiratory and digestive systems. You take into consideration that not all people in an apartment building or in a neighborhood are in the best of health or may be elderly. This can really impact their overall health. Chapter 17 was on the immune system, and it showed how zoonotic infections like toxoplasmosis, and ringworm put vulnerable populations like children, elderly, and the immunocompromised individuals at risk. And again, if you're living in an apartment building or in closed quarters, you may not know the health of your neighbors. So for someone to be hoarding cats can cause a real problem. Cornell veterinary experts emphasize that these diseases are not rare. They're common risks when cats aren't vaccinated or managed. So you imagine one person having the upwards of 47 cats in one apartment. It's just not realistic to assume that all of them are vaccinated or spayed and neutered. So this can be a real issue. So what can we do about it? The slide that I have included for right here, you can see the view inside my neighbor's window. And this is just the cats you can see. From this picture alone, we can count about 36 cats. And this is just walking past his window, no curtains, not trying to see in or violate his privacy. This is just what you can see from walking past his window. So what can be done about it? Researchers recommend trap, neuter, and return programs as one way to improve and reduce the feral cat population. Chapter 18 on animal reproduction explains why spay and neuter is so effective. It prevents exponential growth. Chapter 12 on conservation shows how community-based strategies can protect native species while managing cat populations. And most importantly, policy development, like city ordinances limiting ownership. This could prevent hoarding cases before they spiral out of control. This is the part where I would open up to any questions that anyone may have. So in closing, to kind of sum all of this up, cat hoarding harms ecosystems, wildlife, and human health. And it's not just about cats. I mean, of course, protecting these animals are crucial as well, but it's also about protecting biodiversity, public health, and community well-being. And local action needs to be taken. Without a city ordinance limiting cat ownership, Martinsburg could risk an ecological collapse and public health crisis. Science-based policies and community education can mitigate these risks. And again, just to summarize, Chapter 21 on conservation reminds us that long-term biodiversity protection depends on balancing human behavior with the ecological health. Martinsburg has the chance to lead by example. By setting a reasonable limit on cat ownership, we can protect our neighbors, our environment, our future. So I would just like to thank everyone for listening to my presentation. There are services listed on the slide that I've included. Again, if there's any questions.